The spears missed him. The clubs missed him. But the thing that finally got him was smaller than a grain of sand. It's a gray morning, 30,000 years ago, and a man is sharpening a stone blade by the river. He's strong. He's fast. He has walked away from ambushes that should have ended him. A spear thrown from the brush, a club swung in the dark. Every scar on his body is a story he won. And this morning, while gripping that blade, he nicks his thumb. Barely a scratch. He doesn't even look down. Here's the strange part. The spears missed him. The clubs missed him. Every enemy who ever came for him walked away empty-handed. That thumb might finish what they couldn't. We love to imagine the Stone Age as one long battle. Tribe against tribe, club against club, the strong wiping out the weak. And conflict was real, but if you could line up every early human who ever lived and ask each one what actually ended your story, violence would barely make the list. Something far quieter was doing most of the work. Something you can't see, can't dodge, and can't fight. And once you know what it was, you'll never look at a paper cut the same way again. So let's clear up a myth first. When you picture what killed cavemen, your brain probably reaches for the dramatic stuff. Saber-toothed cats, falling off cliffs, rival tribes with spears. The action movie version. But here's the thing about danger. The danger you can see is the danger you can prepare for. Early humans were genius-level survivors when it came to visible threats. They hunted in groups. They built weapons. They learned which animals to avoid and which valleys hid ambushes. Visible danger? They had a strategy for that. The problem was the danger they couldn't see. Picture the world they lived in. No soap, no clean water, no idea that something smaller than a grain of sand even existed. Every cut, every scrape, every animal bite was an open door. And waiting just outside that door were bacteria, invisible, patient, and absolutely everywhere. To an early human, an infection didn't look like an enemy. It looked like magic. A small wound that should heal instead turns red, then hot, then swollen. The person gets a fever. They get confused. And there is nothing anyone can do, because the enemy is a thing they don't even have a word for. Think about how wild that is. You can run from a lion. You can throw a spear at a rival. But how do you fight something you can't see, can't name, and don't know is there, until it's already winning? That was the real Stone Age war, and almost everyone was losing it. Let's put some numbers on this, and the numbers are genuinely jaw-dropping. When researchers study ancient skeletons and the few hunter-gatherer groups that survived into modern times, a pattern jumps out. Conflict existed, but here's the thing. When you examine the bones of hundreds of foragers, deadly violence usually shows up in only a small slice of them. Meanwhile, the quiet damage is everywhere. Signs of bone infection, abscessed teeth, inflamed marrow. The invisible enemy left its fingerprints on skeleton after skeleton, far more often than any spear ever did. Here's the part that flips the whole story. A warrior could survive an actual fight, walk away from a spear thrust, a clubbing, a fall, and then lose his life days later to the wound itself, not the blow. The fight was level 1. The infection was the secret boss nobody saw coming. And it wasn't just warriors. It was everyone. A child who scraped a knee, a mother recovering from childbirth, an elder with a bad tooth, a hunter bitten by the very animal he was about to eat for dinner. The quiet killer didn't care how strong you were, how brave you were, or how many fights you'd won. A tiny crack in the skin was all it needed. So imagine the odds. You could be the toughest person in your tribe, undefeated, scarred, legendary. And the thing that finally writes the end of your story isn't a rival warrior at all. It's a thumb by a river on a gray morning. Now here's where it gets amazing, because early humans were not helpless. They couldn't see the enemy, but over thousands of years, they figured out how to fight it anyway. Trial, error, and a few absolute strokes of genius. Let me show you 4 of their cheat codes. Cheat code 1. The medicine cabinet was the forest. Long before pharmacies, early humans were reaching for plants, and they were shockingly good at it. Honey smeared on a wound, certain leaves, barks, and resins pressed against cuts. We now know many of these had real antibacterial properties. Now, not every leaf was magic, and plenty of people still didn't make it. But the ones who survived because they grabbed the right plant passed that lesson on. They didn't know why it worked. They just knew the person treated this way was more likely to wake up tomorrow. And that was enough. Cheat code 2. Fire, the great purifier. Fire wasn't just for warmth and cooking, searing a wound shut, dropping heated stones into a pouch of water to make it safer to drink, smoke drifting over a camp. Early humans noticed that fire changed things in a way that helped. They couldn't explain sterilization. They just trusted the flame. And the flame quietly saved lives. Cheat code 3. The tribe as a hospital. Here's something beautiful. When someone got badly hurt or sick, the group didn't always abandon them. We've found ancient skeletons showing healed injuries so severe the person could not have survived alone, meaning someone fed them, protected them, carried them. Being cared for was itself a survival technology. Community was medicine. Cheat code 4. Hard-won wisdom passed down. Every elder who survived a brush with infection became a living instruction manual. Don't eat that. Clean it with this. Keep it dry. Stay away from that water. This knowledge, repeated around the fire generation after generation, became one of humanity's first medical traditions, long before anyone wrote a single word. None of it was perfect, but all of it tilted the odds. Bit by bit, the quiet killer lost a little ground. So think back to that man by the river, holding his blade, blood on his thumb. He didn't know about bacteria. He didn't know the word infection. But the people who came before him handed him something powerful anyway. A head full of hard-won tricks. Wash it. Pack it with this leaf. Let the fire help. Stay near the tribe. Every one of those tricks was a tiny gift, paid for by someone who didn't survive, so that someone after them could. And that chain never broke. It runs straight through every healer, every grandmother's remedy, every scientist who ever stared at something invisible and refused to give up. All the way to the bottle of antiseptic sitting in your bathroom right now. So the next time you clean a small cut and reach for a bandage without even thinking, pause for just a second. That casual, boring little moment, it's a superpower. One that thousands of generations fought, suffered, and survived to hand you. The Stone Age war against the invisible enemy is one of the longest wars humanity ever fought. And the wild, wonderful truth is, you're standing on the winning side.